Everyone has mixed feelings over this game, but I'm going to give it an honest review. The Last of Us 2 had a rich story. The characters in the game felt alive, with all the side dialogue and little items you could collect to talk to them about. It feels like you, as the player, were connecting with just another person. Don't get me wrong, I think the devs could have done a better job on so many things, but in all, I feel like I got my money's worth. What makes The Last of Us so amazing? In The Last of Us, you follow the story of Ellie. She's a girl who is immune to the fungal infection that turns people into zombie like creatures, and her motivation in the first game was to become the cure for everyone else to not live through this hell of the world anymore. Joel and Ellie travel halfway across America just to deliver her to the Fireflies to make this cure. Along the way, they encounter friendly side characters, Joel's brother's Tommy, and a whole bunch of bad guys. Joel, in the beginning of the game, does not like Ellie. He thinks that she's just a little shit. But as the game continues, they grow to have more of a father and daughter type relationship between them. At the end of the game, you find out that the only way to make this cure, Ellie would have to die. And this sends Joel into a fit of rage because he would rather live in this hell of a world than sacrifice Ellie for a cure. In between the first and second game, Ellie finds out what Joel did. This begins the conflict of the first game. Ellie does not hate Joel for what he did, but she feels that she has no meaning now that there is no chance for a cure. Through the game, you see how her and Joel slowly reconnect and become close again. So what did The Last of Us do wrong? In part 2, we all suspected Joel would die, and that would be some motive for Ellie. So I already expected that Joel would die, but I thought maybe he would become infected, or maybe someone he crossed in the past, like the cannibals or the Fireflies, would come after him. So in the beginning of the game, we find out that Abby is the one who is to kill Joel, and she does this because Joel killed her father. Her dad was the doctor, who was the one who was supposed to develop the cure from Ellie's immunity. So the motive and execution of this part of the story makes sense. At this time in the story, the player has no idea who Abby is or what her motive to kill Joel was. Well, because we expected Joel to die, this wasn't really what made the game bad for me. It's what they did after this that made the game less enjoyable. After this, you play as Ellie for a bit, trying to find Abby, and then the game switches you to play Abby for half the whole game. This is probably my biggest problem with the game. Not only do we have no clue who this bulldozer of a woman is, but she just killed the character that we grew to love in the most gruesome way possible. Now, you have to sit down and play her for 6+ hours, and not only did I not have any motivation to play this character, my hate for what she did just made that half of the game not as fun. And then, somebody made the genius idea to have the player play as Abby while she tracks down Ellie and tries to kill her. In fact, it's a whole boss fight. This boss fight made me extremely irritated. All I could think of the whole time was, why am I not playing as Ellie trying to kill Abby for killing Joel? With that to the side, another problem I had with the game was the lack of infected. There were only 2 new infected, and one you could only encounter as a boss fight. So there's only really 1 new infected, and it was not even really that unique. This really disappointed me because the way the fungal infection works is the longer you're infected, the more you mutate and become a different kind of infected. And this game takes place 4 years after the first game. So it just didn't make sense to me that there were no new mutations that happened along these 5 years. How could the game have done better? I feel this is a really easy problem to fix. Instead of killing Joel right in the beginning and then having the player play as the character that killed Joel, move Joel dying towards the middle, make us play as Abby in the beginning of the game, let us warm up to the character, give us her backstory, and then have Joel die in a holy shit way at the hands of Abby. This would make the parts of the game that I didn't find so enjoyable much better, because then I wouldn't hate the character I'm playing. And then still give Ellie a motive to go chase after Abby and kill her, and make the ending of the game so much better. And for the lack of new infected, just make some new infected. Duh. What did they do right? The Last of Us 2 was filled with tons of characters, and it just made the world feel like you were actually living in it. With every item you could find, you could spark up a conversation. Really makes the game immersive. The game looks amazing and has over 20 hours of gameplay. Not only did I find myself looking at every little detail on every bulletin board for just little nuggets of information to show me hidden places in the game, every conversation that the characters had while I played was just fleshed out. The character development in this game was perfect, and the game itself was amazing. The world feels broken down and overgrown in the best way possible. Everywhere you go, there's just some new side story to follow as you run through the overgrown infected cities. Rating. This game was amazing, and I will definitely be doing New Game Plus run. But because of the problems I had with the order of how the game was constructed and the lacking new infected, I feel they lose a few points. I would honestly give this game a 7.5 out of 10. At the end of the day, this is just my opinion. The people who worked on this game did an amazing job and deserve recognition, even though I feel they could have done just a bit of a better job. But thanks for stopping by. Hope you guys enjoy the game, and if not, I'm sorry. I feel like that game was pretty fleshed out, even though they could have just made a couple of changes, and it probably would have made the game a whole lot more enjoyable. But that's The Last of Us 2.
Aw.
I'm a sex symbol.
God
So.